What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV, TGIF edition, always on Fridays. Make sure you go to coinmastery.com/invest to get on the newsletter list, and you get some free PDFs about dollar cost averaging, how to get involved, some kind of introductory strategies. It's proven to be very helpful for the people that have downloaded it. So if you're just getting started or want to be a part of this, go check it out. Today we're talking about Bitcoin's bounce back, so to speak. We're going to talk a little bit about altcoins, talk about the futures markets, a little bit of news that's happening, and then I want to talk about a meetup I went to with Stellar Lumens and Neo, the founders, last night. And then I want to close with a little bit about mindset / psychological implications of where we're going, and also how to really kill it over the next 12 months, which I think is going to be an ongoing theme, as it always is. But let's kick it off. Let's look at this. Right around last night, we started to see this mini pullback. It's not really a huge pullback in the grand scheme of things, even though it may feel like it. We started to see a big surge in volume. And I think that the big catalyst for this has been a few things, right? We'll just jump into it. The CME finally came out and said that the date that they're going to do futures trading is going to be December 18th. So now we have a clear date, which is really interesting that they're doing this right before the holidays. So, you guys know this channel. We go macro into micro. So you see a piece of news like this, and I think about, all right, what's the big, how is this affecting people in general? What's the psychological sentiment around this? So December 18th, people are starting to wind down in the traditional financial markets. People are starting to be like, we're planning our holiday party. Maybe we're going home, whatever it may be. But now they are going to be going into the holidays, or at least people in the CME, with the ability to drive futures markets into Bitcoin. Now, if you don't know what that means, it means you can either bet that it's going up or going down. You can go long, go short. And it's settled off the Bitcoin market. So they're not actually buying Bitcoin. They're buying it's like a new cash market, and they can buy, it just pegs itself to the price of Bitcoin. So the timing of this is going to be really interesting since it's at the end of the year. A lot of people are going to be busy. So that's one thing to keep in mind, right? Like, we looked at Thanksgiving, and we had all these people that sat around Thanksgiving, at least in the United States. This is what happened. Everyone sat around. A lot of people signed up. Saw this huge surge. Now we're going to have a second round of the holidays that's also being fueled by the futures markets. Does not necessarily mean it's going to be going up. It just means that there's going to be a lot more activity around it. Now, if it does go up, that's going to be ridiculous gasoline on the fire. But I'm really interested in the timing. But most importantly, that's what seemingly drove this. There was also a big TV show on last night called Big Bang Theory, which had an episode about Bitcoin. I didn't watch it. I heard it wasn't very good, to be perfectly honest. I don't think that drove this kind of action. I think it was more the futures market. And the other thing that happened yesterday was that the White House got asked about Bitcoin. And what was really interesting is that their response was that, we're looking into this. And the person who brought this up is the director of Homeland Security, which is it's good that they mentioned it, but it's also like, are they looking at this through the lens of Homeland Security as though Bitcoin is some sort of threat to Homeland Security? Which, who knows what that means. But it did get some press. Mike Novogratz got pulled onto Fox News and he got interviewed. You can go watch it. But people are starting to talk about this. I mean, as everybody's talking about this. The Google trends are through the roof. It's the most trending terms on the App Store. I mean, it is like full out, things are happening. And what I think we're seeing, at least from my perspective, is that, we saw the run. We saw a bit of a pullback. We saw a lot of buying activity. People bought the very small dip. And we're just seeing this ongoing support level coming from these hundreds of thousands of people that are signing up for new wallets. I'm sure that a lot of you are getting Facebook messages, emails, questions, people just calling you, texting you, saying like, hey, what's this Bitcoin thing? What should I do? How should I get started? That's keeping this price propped up. And then when you get a little bit of news like the futures market, you can get a big bounce because it doesn't have a lot of negative sentiment to keep it pushed down. I was talking to some folks last night at the event, and I think one thing that I see a lot of that is often forgotten is that people are looking for a reason to buy stuff right now. They want to press the buy button. And so if they get any good reason to buy anything, whether it be Bitcoin, Ethereum, altcoin, anything, they're going to buy it because FOMO is one of the most powerful things in the world. So the smallest piece of news is going to have a huge multiplier effect. And we have yet to see what a big negative piece of news is going to do, but I can tell you that if this is the big drop, this 11,000 down to 9,000, 8,500, and it comes back this quickly, I think we're still in a pretty good parabolic run. I don't think that this is slowing down. So really interesting from my perspective to see this. And I'm just seeing so much demand. Like, it is crazy how many people have come and hit me up, and I'm sure have hit you up. I think the second big piece that I think is more of a macro sentiment that I would this is like the marketer in me that many people may understand is that there's a spectrum that people need to go through before they will really invest in something. And I'm not going to get into the details of that, but it really comes down to like, can you get them to take a free sample? And if they get the results from that free sample, then they're going to buy the thing. And what happened over the last couple of weeks is that a huge amount of people got a free sample, quote unquote, of Bitcoin by signing up on Coinbase. And they're starting to see some results. Like, they're in it. They're starting to get hooked into the news. They're starting to learn about blockchain. They're starting to believe it, as they should, right? Like, there's something very amazing about what's going on. And so you're starting to see people who they're like, well, maybe I'll put another couple $100 in. And now they're going to see a little bit of the price going back up. And that's when things get really interesting, because that's the second part of remember when we talked about what makes things go parabolic. And so these seemingly small price increases may look like very small percentages to somebody who's been in Bitcoin for years, or somebody who's been trading for, a couple of months, or like for anybody. But if you just got in, and I'm talking to anybody who did just get in, I know how good it feels when you put something in and then you get a little bit of uncertainty, and then you see it going back up, and then it keeps going up, and then you're like, oh, I'm going to put more in. And that's what it is. Like, that's how markets grow. That is that's how things go parabolic. So I think it's a combination of all these things. There's just such a demand. It's really incredible. Opening up the trusty Bittrex, the trusty altcoins. I haven't been, to be perfectly honest, I haven't been looking too much into altcoins other than watching people, the market sentiment, specifically in a lot of chat rooms, whether it be on Slack, Telegram, Discord, like any of the, those free chat rooms. You can get Twitter to a certain extent, but I'm trying to see why people, like, what's the level at which people need to be convinced to buy something, right? Because in certain points of the market, when you look back, and this comes down to, when you look through your trading book, or you reflect on what the market looked like back, any time around here. And one thing you can write down is, what was the overall sentiment of the community? How were people talking about this? Were they bullish? Were they bearish? What were they saying? And when it comes to altcoins, the thing I'm doing right now is I'm trying to see how much convincing people need to buy something. Not for me. I'm not pitching anybody on anything. But that's what these chat rooms really are all about. It's like, oh, I saw this rumor, or I saw this news, or buy this, or here's what this chart says. And it's like, how easily will people buy something? And that to me is a very good proxy for knowing how solid this chart is. And I think that there's enough people that they're not buying just anything right now. Like they're not just throwing money at it, but there's definitely people that want to throw money at something, but they're trying to be smart about it, which is a good thing. So what that means, in my opinion, is that you're just going to continue to see the ups and downs on this, and Bitcoin's just going to continue to be this kind of high volume juggernaut for at least a few more days. Maybe until the CME comes out, maybe not. But what I would encourage anybody to do is like focus on 5 of these. Do your research, dive into it, and get some information that will give you the conviction to make a real bet on one of these, or make a real investment, I should say, whether it be short term or long term, and not do the I'm going to throw a little bit of money at a lot of stuff this week, right? Trade less but trade bigger amounts. That's really, in my opinion, that's the way to do it. That's the way you're going to make a lot of money. So we'll get into it. I think next week I'll have a little bit more of an idea. There's a few that I'm looking at right now. Specifically, it was really interesting. Last night I went to an event down here in San Francisco with Stellar Lumens, Neo, and there was 2 others like I can't remember the name of them, but it was really cool. And these guys all spoke, Dong from Neo and Jed from Stellar. And there's a few things that came out of this. The first thing was I got to meet a lot of you guys, which was awesome. And I really want to keep doing these kind of meetups. I'm gonna see what the deal is with renting out spaces or just meeting up, wherever. But it is so powerful when you just meet people, real life, and just get to talk to them and chat with them and help each other out. So that's super cool. It makes this all very real. I think the other thing that I got out of this personally was there's this guy down on the end here, and maybe he's over here. No, he's not on the meetup list. So Ontology and Elastos were the other companies. So that's what it was. But anyway, there's a guy who's a venture capitalist. He is a venture capitalist, and he was also around in the 90s as an investor, took a couple of companies public, and he got to watch that bubble boom and burst. And he had a really interesting perspective. He was definitely more from a business standpoint. And what I found really interesting is, as somebody who's obviously primarily interested in the business of crypto, but I love the technology and the potential of blockchain, to look at these 2 different perspectives and see where is the disconnect happening? Because anytime you see big bubbles like this, where, especially driven by tech, this is from history, but also from being a part of to a certain extent, the app business was kind of like a bubble where developers and product people tend to think that their vision is like how the world should be because it's obviously working, right? Like in this case with crypto, it's like you make a blockchain and it becomes the big thing, and you're like the leader in blockchain, and you're like, the rules are changing. And then you look at a venture capitalist or a business person who's like, listen, things like the technology is changing, but a lot's staying the same. And I'm always trying to figure out how to connect those 2, because that's where the money is how do you connect those? That's what all the great companies always have done. Those are the ones that succeed. And the venture capitalist brought up a lot of really interesting points about how blockchain is to solve real world problems, and how blockchain will be used in a lot of autonomous systems, and also how 95% of coins aren't going to survive. And he was very frank about this. And I thought that was super interesting compared to talking about the products and the potential of the products and what this could do. And I think the big takeaway that I got out of this was I will start to invest more money when I hear people in the blockchain community, people building coins, products, companies, whatever, that are looking at the world and saying, here's a problem, and we are going to solve this problem in a way that people will readily use. A great example of this is Uber, right? Like, people may not have known that the taxis weren't convenient, or that, you know, driving wasn't worth it for them or whatever, and Uber really solved that problem in a big way. Same with Airbnb. What Uber didn't do is come out and be like, driving is worthless. We're going to change all of your behavior and make everything different. So I think that to me is a really important difference. And that is a more venture capitalist view of crypto. But I really think that that's what needs to happen for some of these coins that survive. And while, like, I'm obviously, I own a lot of Stellar, so maybe I'm biased versus Neo, but I think that what I liked about what Stellar had to say was that there's a huge problem with interbank or continental, between country banking transfers, and not even transfers, but just moving money, right? Like MoneyGram or Western Union or anything like that. And that's a huge problem, and it's an expensive problem. And it's a problem that banks actually want to solve, and the consumers want, and they would use in low bandwidth settings, and it's very, very cheap. And it's kind of a win-win across the board. It solves a huge problem versus, like, I think Neo is an incredible platform, and I got nothing but good. It was very impressive. But the Neo responses were more like, you know, that's cool that the world has all these problems, but here's how the world should be. Like, here's the vision of what we have, and, you know, we're gonna have all these decentralized exchanges, and here's how things are gonna work when blockchain takes over. And I'm being, like, extreme about this. I'm paraphrasing, but that's not how it works. Like, it's very difficult to change human behavior, and it's a lot more lucrative, a lot more profitable to go and find things that people are already doing and make them cheaper, more convenient, more fun, whatever. But it's very hard to say what you're doing isn't right. Here's a new way to do it. That can work like once in 100, and when it works, it goes huge. But as an investor, that was a big takeaway, comparing the VC mindset to the product mindset. So that was my takeaway. I will say they were all very impressive, and I do own Neo. I own Stellar. Like, I think that they're both great products. That's just my perspective, and something that I'm going to take away, and I'm going to layer that over the research I continue to do. If you are interested in doing this kind of stuff, I would encourage you, just go on meetup.com. I mean, that's how I found about this, or I saw this on Twitter, or I saw it on the Stellar Reddit channel, I believe. You know, seek this stuff out. And obviously I live in San Francisco, so it's a little different than if you live someplace where it doesn't seem like there's a meetup. But you'd be amazed at, if you start your own meetup, you can get a group of 5 people together and just chat about what you're doing in cryptocurrency, or maybe you can, people who just want to learn more, and you can walk them through Coinbase, or, you know, you can show them anything. Show them you guys can watch the recording of one of these meetups. But it's super powerful to go and be there and to hear from the developers and from the founders and from the people who are there. You know, I met a lot of people in the audience, and some were investors, some were marketers, some were, like, just interested, some were developers, engineers. But go there and ask people questions, introduce yourself, you know, just see if you can help people out. It's really cool. And you will start to see things unfolding. I got to talk to Jed for a little bit at the end, which was really awesome. And I'm really excited about what those guys are doing. So just cool, like a very cool thing. And what I will end with, as I often do on a Friday, is more about, like, the mindset psychology. And I think that this is something that I've seen in many businesses, right? Especially anything that has to do with making money. There's a lot of skepticism about any claim about, oh, you can make money, or, oh, this is going to make you money, for good reason. I mean, there's a lot of bullshit scams out there, right? Pardon my French. But there is nothing that is going to like sabotage somebody's potential gains than being pessimistic or cynical about opportunities. Now, you got to be smart, and you got to do your research. But if you go into anything with kind of a leery eye and thinking like, oh, this is BS or whatever it may be, if you assume that it's not going to work out, your brain and your actions are going to, that's what's going to happen. And one great reason about going to these events is that you see people that are very optimistic. And there's a wide range on that. Some people are a little too optimistic, and some people are just kind of interested. They're not quite optimistic enough. But I think like one thing I've learned over the years is that when you really believe that, one, it could happen, and two, it could happen to you, that you deserve, like there's no reason why it couldn't happen, that you couldn't pick the right coin, or like the thing couldn't happen to you, or blockchain may actually become as big as you think it could be. Once you believe that it actually could happen, that's when you start to filter through a lot of the garbage that's on the internet. You start to look through the chat rooms and be like, this is all just noise. And you start to really look for the things that are going to make that reality happen. Now, I know this is getting kind of like Tony Robbins and stuff like that, but it's so true. That's why the smartest people in the world don't always make a lot of money, because the smartest people in the world are often very like rational, pessimistic. It's like they're smart. And often, like, being optimistic means being kind of like, you know, you don't get whatever. So I think that this is something that I come across. And I come across this a lot because when people, especially now, are coming in and asking me, hey, should I get into crypto? What should I buy some Bitcoin? What should I do? I used to spend a lot of time convincing people, like, you should do, like, here's why this is so amazing. There's so much to offer. This is an incredible opportunity. And I've realized that it's very it's just like, it's such a huge amount of energy to try to convince people that this is like, they should just go for it. And if you're listening to this, or if you're watching this, I can't promise you that Bitcoin's going to go to $1 million. I can't promise you that you're going to make $1 million. But what I can promise you is that if you start thinking that it could happen, and that you have way more control of that happening than you think, the chances of it happening are exponentially higher. And this is the opportunity. Like, this is the thing, maybe of our entire lives. There'll be other opportunities, but this may be the biggest one. And the best thing you can possibly do is to spend 20 minutes every day this weekend. Just write it down. This could go big for you too. Not just for the people that bought Bitcoin in 2012. Like, this could still be huge for you. And I want to get that message out, because I can't tell this to everybody individually, but I can make a video about it. I can make a podcast about it. This could be so huge. You gotta just think that way. You gotta look at it. This is not inevitable, but you could make it happen. So, very exciting stuff. I always get fired up thinking about the future and the possibilities of the future, and how many cool people are on this ride. So that's really what this is all about, right? It's about making our lives better. It's about getting the life we want to get, and this is the vehicle. So let's just get in, hit the gas, and just rock it out. So I hope you guys have a great weekend, TGIF, and I will see you on Monday. Peace out.